we're not going to bore the people like the WWE tried to bore the people with this entire 3-hour thing. There, at this point, there's two important, really converging situations here. The bloodline and the baby faces, who are Owens, Sammy, and Cody. And John Cena, now that he's back and he's a bigger star than anybody in the business. So that's what we're going to run through, because if you've seen that, you've seen all of it. And this was an important piece of the puzzle in the bloodline situation. And we opened with, remember Roman Reigns on SmackDown said, hey, he's giving Jimmy a fucking deadline. He told that to Heyman. And now there's Heyman telling Jimmy and Solo at the top of the program one more time. Roman said, solve the Sami Zayn problem. And you didn't do it Friday. Well, he's here tonight, so you better do it. Jimmy, you solve Sammy with or without Jay, and Solo, you get rid of Owens. And then they walk off, and he calls Roman Reigns on the phone. But if he ever said what Roman said on the phone, we missed it. Nevertheless, I liked for the first time maybe in a long time, I liked the first 20 minutes of Raw a lot, because they got to the point. They laid that introduction down on the interview. Then they had Owens against Solo. And they had a match that actually went longer than 90 seconds to the break, and then blah, blah, blah. It wasn't a great match, but they were trying. I will say that in a compliment sandwich, yes, I like the fact that they started off with some action, and it's an angle match, and we can get into it. The match, they did a jump start. They went to the floor. Solo posted Owens twice, and then the referee rang the bell to start the match. Remember when a jump start would happen, and it was obvious that I'm not talking about a behind-the-back jumping attack. I'm talking about when the guys just start fighting by mutual agreement. Here we go. The referee used to ring the bell right then, because that was a way to start the fucking thing when everybody's up, and bing, ding, ding, and here we go. And now it's they get in a fight, and the heel hurts the babyface, and then the referee rings the bell to start the match, and then what the fuck? And then they got to start over again. Am I just being too cranky?
We just complained about this. I think it was in AEW actually previously, where there was a whole big thing on the floor. Maybe it was a Moxley match or something, and then they got in the ring, and then the bell rang and the match started. Everyone does that now. They think it's a standard thing because of, was it Brett and Austin? Whatever it was,
I don't know.
Triggered people to think this is now a standard thing.
But anyway, so the match goes on, but here's the problem is they stopped Owens so soon, and Solo is he's a punch and kick guy, and it was a lot of the segment where they had some time, 5 minutes for or 7 minutes or whatever before they went to the break, was the heel just kicking and stomping the babyface and put a chin lock on him. And finally Owens fired up, and Jimmy was down to ringside at that point at Owens' little flurry and distracted him, and Owens got the ass in the face in the ring, and then he rolls out and he gets the ass in the face by the barricade, and then they go to the break. But when they come back, there's more heat on Owens. And then finally Solo missed the charge into the turnbuckle, and Owens makes a comeback and hits the senton and gets a cover, and 1, 2, and Uso saves, DQ, ding, ding, ding. And okay, again, even if you're going to do the DQ, can we just do some dipsy doodles first? It just seems like I think we mentioned this on The Experience, talking about some things on SmackDown. They do it like all of a sudden we're finished with the match. Let's do the get out of it finish. Well, you can always do a get out of it finish that people don't take as a get out of it finish if you take them a few places first, but maybe they didn't have time. Anyway, the heels go to put Owens through the desk, and here's Sammy, and he makes a big save and beats up both heels and runs them off, and the people are fucking loving it. They're loving Sammy. And there's Owens down in the corner, and Sammy offers his hand, not only a handshake, but to like help him up. And Owens looks at him and slides right under the bottom rope and limps off. And so, what? Still, we don't get them together. But that was the first 20 minutes of the program compared to often, except if it is the entire full bloodline or Cody, we get a long promo and a tag team match playa that we don't really give a shit about. What do you think about this one?
I mean, I can't really add too much to what you thought about the match. I like Solo's presence more than his in-ring stuff, and that's not meant as anything other than I still think he has a ways to go in the ring. He's still relatively new. I like the storyline stuff better than the match, and
yeah,
it's almost like what the WWF was in the 80s, where the overall story and things like this means more than whatever the hell's happening in the ring. That's secondary, and it's so good here that
it's more pronounced. It's more pronounced now than it was in the 80s because at least they hadn't had previous 2 decades to tell people, yeah, the match is when they go for a minute and a half and we're going to go to break. Don't worry about the match. Just get to the gaga.
My only thought was not knowing where the rest of the show would go and obviously not knowing where the bloodline angle or series of angles will go. I don't think they can, whatever they're going to do with Sammy and Owens, they got to do it maybe next week or soon. I don't know how many more weeks of I'm going to help you, but we're not friends.
Yeah,
they could each do. I think they've kind of exhausted them.
Well, then let's go to the interaction between those two in the back, which followed all of this, where Sammy comes up to Kevin and says, I don't know what else to say. None of us can do it alone. We've got the same objective. The only way to take the bloodline down is to do it together. He said, I was in the bloodline, I know. And then Owen says, I know. I remember. In this building, because they kicked the shit out of him in that building. I've been fighting him for 8 months, and maybe together we could, but I don't want to do this with you. So go back to Roman. Maybe he'll take you back. Leave me out of it. And I'm getting what you're saying is that they got to do something because Owens is now starting to come off as overly petulant over this thing in a wrestling context where people get back together for flimsy reasons. And actually, it's very true to life because Owens will fucking fester on something and beat that dead horse down to the ground. But I think we're seeing a clue later on. We'll get to that here in a second. But I think
we said it a few weeks ago.
We said it, but now we're seeing a clue that it's going to happen.